Hello, everyone, and welcome to this catching up episode of the Tonic Accord. It's me, your host, Drew, and today I'm going to talk about what's been going on in Michigan. Last Thursday, the federal and state officials in Michigan announced that there was a plot by 6 men to kidnap the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, as well as plant a bomb in a bridge, threaten police officers with Molotov cocktails. And then there was a larger arrest of 13 men who were related and co-conspirators in many of these anti-government plots by these militia groups. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, kind of catch you up on this kind of crazy story. And so let's just dive right in. So first of all, let's get the names of these guys. Adam Fox, Barry Croft, Ty Garbin, Caleb Franks, Daniel Harris, and Brandon Caserta. They're the ones that were actively involved in the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. The idea was, and they'd actually been doing surveillance on her vacation home in Michigan, and they were going to try and kidnap her. And they were also going to try and blow up a bridge to stop the police from being able to respond quickly to whatever situation. This was all found out because of the FBI's work, and recently the FBI has made a counter domestic terrorism and hate groups kind of team. And so the work that the FBI has been doing as reason we know all this, and they were able to be stopped before the plot was enacted out. And so the FBI had FBI informants as well as an undercover officer who attended basement meetings underneath this shop. There was like a guy with a shop, and he didn't realize what was going on. He thought he was just helping out his son, who was down on his luck. In reality, underneath the shop, underneath what the news called a trap door, really just a basement door, they were just having these meetings and trying to plot against the governor. They had been known to post on Facebook calling her a tyrant bitch. And they had stated a lot of hate against her coronavirus regulations. And I think that's really where the reason from all this stems is, Gretchen Whitmer has been pretty staunch in her coronavirus lockdown and not letting up. And, I can see why people might be upset about that, but I do think it's a necessary thing if you're given in a public health crisis like a pandemic. But regardless, that's why these guys were upset. And they basically considered her a tyrant with too much power. And they thought it was a good idea to try and citizens arrest her, which really meant kidnap her, and they also talked about starting civil wars, and that's when the FBI really started to hone in on, okay, we need to stop these guys. Is when one of a wired informant, it was in one of these meetings, and they were talking about firebombing police cars, rushing the state capitol, and as well as kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer to full on start a civil war. So that's the really scary stuff. This is obviously a terroristic extremist group, and included in some of these charges against the 13 men are terrorist charges and aiding and abetting information for terrorism. So the 6 men we talked about earlier are involved in direct plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, but there's a second group that was tied in with them, and they're also getting charged with announced terrorism, conspiracy, and weapons charges against a larger group of 13 men. These guys are called some group the Wolverine Watchmen, an extremist group that the state attorneys accuse them of collecting addresses of police officers in order to target them, threatening to start a civil war leading to societal collapse. Wow. So you really have a far right, anarchist vibe to it. Basically, these guys, I guess, are upset with the current state of society, and power dynamic in American politics, right? Again, they keep calling Gretchen Whitmer a tyrant, so they're obviously upset with something to do with that, and they want to tear down society. Pretty heavy stuff. So it's great that the FBI caught this early and got rid of it. It is scary, though, because, again, the FBI has explained recently that right-wing and radical extremism, domestic radical extremism, is one of the largest threats we're facing, as far as a domestic threat. As well as Trump's own Department of Homeland Security has named, white supremacist and far-right radical groups as another main problem and issue with domestic safety. So I really, it's important that we do take these things seriously. Now, of course, I don't want to stoke fear to the point of, and I don't think the news media should either, to stoke fear in the hearts of everyone that, you know, you can't live your life because far right radicals are ruining this country. I don't, I think people should not live in fear like that, but it's also very serious. It's a real problem that's happening, and we're seeing it bubble up. I mean, one of the things that I thought was interesting was, I watched a report from, I think, just like a local Michigan news station, but the guy said he had sources within the officials and police officers, and he asked them, is this something that these guys really could have done? Like, if you hadn't stopped the plot beforehand, is this something that these guys really could have, like, carried out? Bombing a bridge and to kidnapping could they have done it? And the officials he talked to said yes. These guys had done trainings over the summer, fire range trainings, like tactical trainings, right? Like a full-on training militia group. And that they were actually like going to buy explosives. Like a week before they got arrested, right? So they were buying explosives to blow up this bridge. They had firearms, right? They had ARs and M16s. Some of them legal, some of them not. Or it's included in the charges, some guns charges. And yeah, that's what the fear was. These guys could actually carry out something like this. It was a real plot by trained guys that were trained and terrorists. So certainly scary. Very glad that the FBI took it out. Now let's touch a little bit on the political implications. Unfortunately, there are. And Gretchen Whitmer mentions it when she responds to this plot. She talked about how Trump's rhetoric regarding far-right groups to stand back and stand by, basically giving them a go. I do want to mention, like, a little more less serious is this. I don't know if you can see my screen here. Yeah, this translator for the deaf, super fun to watch. Let's
Democrat,
take a look.
Young or old, rich or poor. It doesn't care if we're tired of it. It threatens us all.
She's giving us 100%.
This should be a moment for national unity, where we all pull together as Americans to meet this challenge head on. Instead, our head of state has spent the past 7 months denying science, ignoring his own health experts, stoking distrust, fomenting anger, and giving comfort to those who spread fear and hatred.
Look at her! Wow, she's going hard.
Just
pretty serious topic, but just definitely funny to see that translator. So Gretchen Whitmer responds saying, I didn't think the job would be this tough, but she definitely puts blame on Donald Trump for stoking division and, in her mind, giving a green light to these guys. Trump responded on an interview on Fox News saying that, it was my Justice Department that arrested these guys. I don't know why she's complaining. Let's break this down. The Justice Department does not belong to the president. It doesn't. He's able to, suggest and appoint, and then it's confirmed. The head of the Justice Department, but it's not Trump's Justice Department. And there is a very clear and distinct separation of those two branches. Or not in the branch sense of like a judicial executive, but just like it's its own entity. It's its own bureaucratic entity that's not associated with the White House itself. And so that's really important, right? So Trump does feel like Barr is his guy, and it's his Justice Department, and that should then extend to why am I getting blame if I'm responsible for arresting these guys? The reality is Trump's not responsible for arresting these guys, and also Trump's not responsible for these anarchist groups plotting this thing. Like, in a literal sense, he's not responsible. But it is worth noting the rhetoric around anti-government groups is getting stronger, and they feel more empowered because of someone like Trump. I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think that you could really say that, like, Trump wanted these guys to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. I think he's playing politics, but it's playing dangerous politics. He's playing with fire, and this is what happens when you play with fire. I do think he's stoking the flames, but the flames are already there. The flames have been there for a while in the United States, right? This is not like far-right radical groups thinking that a civil war is coming and then that they need to, tear down this new, whatever, globalist society. That's been around for a while, but Trump is just using that rhetoric to, I guess, appeal to his base, which are more likely to believe things like that. Very scary. I'm glad that Gretchen Whitmer is okay. She's definitely playing her political role and turning it right back around back on Trump, making Trump look terrible. Probably helping her pollings. We'll see. We'll see how the political aspect. I'm interested to see how the polling changes around Gretchen Whitmer from this event. But ultimately, the most important thing is that these guys were stopped. These are definitely terrorists, including terrorist charges. So definition. Using fear and violence to promote a political purpose, and yeah, I'm glad they're being hailed accordingly. So to cap this out, these guys could face life in prison because of some of these actions. I hope it was worth it, man. Hope it was worth it with your little revolution fantasy. So with that, we're going to end this catching up with the Tonic Accord. Certainly a crazy one. Tune in for our live streams on Tuesdays right around 6. Whoa, there's a motorcycle outside. Right around 6:30 p.m. on Tuesdays, we live stream the Tonic Accord with me and my buddy Alex. He's my co-host and good friend. And we also put out full recorded episodes twice a week. Take care.